Hi, I'm Randall Perry, organist and master of the choristers at St. Paul's United Church of Christ in Trexlertown. We've been doing a series on the instruments in the church. We covered the organ in the last 3 sessions. We're going to start today's coverage is going to be about the piano that we have here at the church. It's an Albert Weber baby grand piano. And just a little bit about the Weber company. It was founded in 1852 by Albert Weber. He was born in 1829 in Bavaria, and he died on June 25th in 1879 in New York. Later on in time, the Young Chang Piano Company took over the designs and the actual making of these pianos. So instruments built by Young Chang today are modern designs and have little in common with what the early Webers had, which would have been considered dated today, especially consider their efficiency in manufacturing. Young Chang remains one of the responsible for manufacturing Weber pianos, which are sold in 2 product lines: Weber with entry and mid-level pianos, and Albert Weber, a high-quality line of pianos. We have an Albert Weber, so this is actually a very high quality of a line. Albert Weber pianos are premium instruments and are some of the best pianos made by Young Chang. Now, the piano itself is an acoustic stringed instrument invented in Italy by Bartolomeo Cristofori around the year 1700. The exact year is not known. And what happens here, these strings that we have in this are struck by hammers, okay? Unlike its predecessor, the harpsichord, where they were plucked by feather quills or plectra, which would come up from a jack and pick it. So the hammers had very early on around them leather, and then they graduated to a softer material. Today they're wrapped with felt, and the actual name of this instrument is called the piano forte. Piano and forte indicate soft and loud, respectively. What's neat about the piano is the greater the force, the more sound you hear. So that gives the person playing the instrument much more control than they would the harpsichord or the clavichord or one of the earlier instruments that preceded that. Now, the piano generally has a wooden enclosure or encasement here. And inside, I'm going to point to some things for you that make the piano work. Underneath, you will see here, and I'll see if I can get some of it. You'll see some white things coming up, which are the hammers. What the hammer does is the hammer comes up and hits the strings so they vibrate. But as long as you keep your finger down, they will vibrate. And if you leave your finger up, where you see me pointing now, this is called a damper. So you'll see that goes up, but then when I leave the key up, the damper goes down and stops the vibrations, okay? So on the piano itself, our lower bass strings go from 1 to 2, And then from here on, we have 3 strings per note. You probably heard some of the horror movies where you heard these type of things. So that would be a special effect that was done by playing them like a harp. But the piano is actually considered a percussive instrument because a hammer hits the strings and you don't pluck them. So also on the piano, and you can't see them here, but there are 3 pedals. One is called the damper pedal. If you watch these dampers here, you'll see I can get them all to move at one point. Here are my hands, but watch. Can you see them? Okay. If we did not have dampers on the piano and I played something, it would sound like this. Like a bunch of mush. But because we have dampers to go down and stop the string, you hear big difference in the first rendition as to the second. Okay, so we talked about the gradations of volume and stuff like that. Now, there are, like the organ, black and white keys, only the organ has 61 keys. The piano has 88. Okay, so there's 88 from low A here to middle or to a high C. So there are 52 white keys and there are 36 black keys, which are raised and above. And so you can play 88 different notes all the way down to the lowest note. The black keys are what we call for accidentals. So it'd be like F sharp or G flat, G sharp, A flat. So they are, there's your pentatonic scale, which is 5 white keys. And most of the notes have 3 strings, as we said before, except for the lowest ones. They have a little bit of... pieces that were written for the harpsichord, which was the predecessor of this instrument, were much easier to play because there was no hammer, okay? Now, Bach, he composed mostly for harpsichord. One of the pieces that will demonstrate how the hammers make this sound a little bit clearer is just an excerpt from one of his 2-part inventions. So, all of these mechanics combined give you a nice clean sound, but because of the way the grand is laid up, the hammers have to come up the strings to hit the strings, so it's a little bit more pressure has to be applied, but you can have different by pressure into the key, you can have different dynamics. The middle pedal is called the Sustanuto. And what that does is gives you a rising of dampers only in the notes you play first. And then they will stay sounding and you can play something entirely different, but those will still sound. For an example, this. Look, Ma, one hand. So that's another way to make the piano a very versatile instrument. The final pedal on the left side, I don't know if you can see this here. It will take all of the whole action and will move it. Can you see it move at all? Hey, recording engineers, can you see it move? Okay. What that does is it takes all of the hammers and moves them, and it gives it a softer tone. So if you play a chord like this, and then you take the Sustanuto, and you, or una corda, I'm sorry, una corda pedal, and you play it, you have a different sound. And so. And that is a basic overview of the piano. I don't want to get too into the weeds because it tends to get confusing. Now, next time we meet, we'll talk about the history of the piano, where it came from. We'll talk a little bit about Cristofori, and we'll go into some other things. So until that time, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next broadcast. Live from St. Paul's UCC in Trexlertown. Bye.